Hello everyone, and welcome to the chapters 14 to 16 readings for Arc 2. If you don't know, I'm Wolf. I'm the manager of this project and also the voice of the main character, Natsuki Subaru. Welcome everyone. I think we're ready to all introduce ourselves. From top to bottom, let's introduce ourselves, guys.
I am Kyle's McGiles. I'm your Amelia, and struggling person running the stream. Yay! Ayo, Matt, are we skipping you?
Yes.
Yes. All right, TLD. Hold on. Yep.
Don't worry, the scuff is natural. It's natural.
I'm gonna kill myself. Okay, Gojo from the top.
There you go, that's better.
Hi, Gojo's Domain here, co-narrator.
Sorry, we're also backtracking to Kiki as well. Kiki's not on my mic.
Oh no!
You got it.
Oh my god. Feel free to say hi, Kiki.
Okay. Hello again, I'm Keegan484. I'll be voicing Beatrice, and who knows, I might be a narrator this week. Ooh.
We skip Kyle's. TLD.
Hello. Am I coming? There we go. Oh my gosh, this microphone. Blech.
That's better.
Hi, I'm Tealdi. I'll be narrating, in theory. I don't know. It's a hot mess here today.
Damn.
I'm Palazard, your friendly neighborhood translator, newly minted staff for the crew, and I will be continuing as Rom today.
Hello, I'm Citrus. I'll be voicing Rem today during the readings.
And I am Gold, and I'll be voicing Roswell today in the readings.
Thank you, everyone. Now, are we all ready on our end to start up the chapter?
Uno momento.
Apparently not.
I'm gonna make sure I have everything lined up, and then yes, absolutely.
Welcome to the stream chat. Thanks everyone for coming in and watching again. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. We're gonna be having some cool stuff coming soon as the next few weeks come. And if you want to get some of that stuff early, particularly some of the fan favorite Liliana chapters, don't forget to try and become a member for us. You get those early, some other unique benefits eventually, and it helps us out a lot.
You heard it here first, folks.
And the next Liliana chapter, my voice is now coming back, and the narration should be done either tonight or tomorrow.
Yay!
Finally! A whole month and 2 weeks of being ill.
Oof.
We are getting everything back on track for everyone, so things should be coming a little bit smoother as we come and keep going from here on out. Thank you all for your patience. We are very grateful that you are still coming in and enjoying our content.
We appreciate all of you. Alright, I think...
So without further ado, do you want to get into the chapter?
Yes, I have almost everything lined up. I'm so sorry. Music is just, Okay, yep, we're good. I'm ready when you guys are.
Gojo, are you narrating the first one, or is Tealdi?
Whoever wants to take it first, if y'all want to prepare
Who
it
can?
first.
I'm gonna play this.
Gojo can take the first one.
And then
Aye.
I'll thumbs up to you. Okay. Also, everyone, we are going to try out a new thing for a lot of Subaru's internal thoughts. If you really don't like it or it's just not given what you want, let us know in the chat and we'll stop it. We are going to be doing a voice mod pack soon, once we get the money for it. But we're gonna try something scuffed from home first.
DIY, as it were.
Yeah. We love to try. Alright. And I did not switch my name for us, but that's okay. We're gonna leave it for now. Kyle's is Subaru and Amelia. Okay. I am now ready when you are, Gojo.
Here we go. Arc 2, Chapter 14, Declaration of Rebellion. Hello?
Okay, now you
Do I hear bells ringing somewhere?
It was the sound of a bell violently crashing, then fading away, and crashing again and fading again, over and over like waves. It was similar sensation to tinnitus, and it was so painful that Subaru realized he had already started crying. His temple hurt terribly, and he could feel something hot rising inside his nose. He bit his tongue hard enough to cut open his lip, and used the taste of blood as a point of focus. The pain that felt like it was gouging its way out from within his chest, a sense of loss for something no longer real, an anger that could do nothing but scream against the unreasonableness. All of it was masked by the taste of his fresh blood.
Sir, you seem to be in great pain. Are you unwell?
Sir, your stomach looks like it hurts. Did something leak out?
Nearby, he thought he could hear a concerned voice, maybe two. The voice was one that was sometimes annoying, sometimes gloomy, occasionally relaxing, and occasionally reliable. At that moment, though, it sounded only cruel to Subaru's ears.
I'm fine.
Subaru's response was brief. He looked up from his mattress with his eyes closed, though he could feel their eyes watching him. The rage that was coming in waves, which was the cause of him pressing his face into the mattress, somehow seemed to fade away. If he opened his eyes, there would probably be a faint redness visible in them, but if he kept them closed, nobody would be able to tell. Subaru continued to try to calm his mind by breathing steadily. After the initial shock, the despair had smothered him like a wool blanket. He could still feel a sob trying to come up from within the deep sense of loss.
Still, I should at least do what I can to get a good starting point here. Sorry to worry you. Guess I woke up a little dazed and confused.
He opened his mouth and the words just rolled out. His lips were cracked, his laugh was hoarse, and his words hardly made sense. And he still hadn't opened his eyes.
Maybe if I keep my eyes closed, everything will go back to normal. This could all be a dream. I'd be fine with that.
He imagined how nice and infuriating it would be if this was all just a prank Roswell was playing on him. He liked that idea, and imagining that was the case made him feel the weight in his chest lighten just a bit. Feeling saved by his own imaginary excuses, Subaru released a small exhale.
That's all it is.
He opened his trembling eyelids and saw a blurry world slowly come into focus, and reality was forced upon him. Twin girls were standing on either side of him, their hands pressed into the bed. The familiar stoic faces of Ram and Rem were staring right at Subaru. Neither face contained any feeling towards Subaru at all. Everything that he had built up with him over the course of 4 days had vanished like the morning fog.
Dear guest,
Two confused voices spoke in unison. Their eyes had followed Subaru as he had rapidly sat up in bed. Subaru, who was directly between the two, made some distance. A rush of fear had sent a shiver down his spine.
Dear guest, you shouldn't move so suddenly. You haven't fully rested yet.
Dear guest, it's risky to move so suddenly. You still need to rest a bit more.
They reached their fingers out to him. Almost like a reflex, Subaru ducked to avoid them. Their eyes quickly narrowed, but Subaru was in no state to be able to notice something so subtle.
It's unbearable, being treated like a stranger by people I know. I felt it the other day in a back alley, and in an abandoned house. This is seriously different from then. The timing, the place, everything I went through. It's not like I'm getting a do-over with girls I barely know. It's a complete reset with someone I had built up a lot of trust with.
That awful feeling, like the ones he knew had literally become different people, was making Subaru feel nauseous. The twin maids were beginning to notice something was bothering Subaru, who was displaying an emotion not too different from fear in his trembling eyes. A silence fell over the room. Neither side was able to respond to the other's cues.
I'm sorry! I can't do this right now!
Subaru managed to fiddle with the door and roll into the hallway only a moment faster than the twins' attempt to grab him. Feeling the cool touch of the hallway floor on his feet, Subaru exhaled loudly and, in a fury, ran off towards an unknown destination. He didn't know what he was running from. He didn't even know why he was running. It was all he felt he could do, though. His instincts were telling him that if he stopped, they would catch up with him.
I couldn't stay in there like that.
Alarm bells were ringing in his head. His heart, mind, and soul were screaming at him to get away. He didn't know why. It was just the only thought in his head. Subaru ran past many identical doors, stumbling along the hallway, and looking like he was about to fall over. Then, out of breath, he opened the door his hand had found itself on, and slid into the forbidden library, lined with stacks and stacks of books.
Once the door was closed, the library was completely isolated from the outside world. Opening the door from the outside was basically the same task as opening every door in the mansion. Subaru took a deep breath, relaxed his shoulders, leaned back against the door, and slumped to the ground. Even after he sat down, his knees were still shaking, and his hands, which he reached out to stop his knees, wouldn't stop trembling. It wasn't too dissimilar to an alcoholic going through withdrawal.
If I played a paper sumo match against one, it would probably be a good match.
There was no sharpness in his words of self-mockery, and his dry laugh only exaggerated the feelings of emptiness. The tranquil atmosphere of the library, filled with the smell of old paper, poured a terribly calm spaciousness into Subaru's urgent state of mind. It was only a comforting thought, but it was the only peace Subaru could find. Therefore, he put all his trust in it. He took another deep breath, then another, and another.
He just walks right in without knocking. How very rude, in fact.
A voice reached Subaru from behind the bookshelves, taunting him while he was gasping for breaths like a fish on a hill. At the back of the dimly lit room, a girl with cream-colored hair sat in front of a small wooden desk. Ever the same, always unwavering, the keeper of the forbidden library that always kept their distance from Subaru. Beatrice. She loudly slammed the book she was holding closed, and despite it being too big for her tiny body, she shifted the book into one hand.
You managed to break through the door crossing, I suppose. Just as you did earlier.
Look, I'm sorry. Please, just let me stay here for a while. I beg you.
Clasped his hands together in prayer and started to meditate without waiting for her response. He needed to face reality and himself in a quiet place without disturbance.
You have to calm down. Accept reality. You are Natsuki Subaru. This is Roswell's mansion, in a different world. The twins' names were Ram and Rem, and Beatrice is the one in front of me. This is the mansion's forbidden library, and it's fairly easy to get in and out using a hunch called door cracking. There were no wounds on my left hand, no proof of my hard work. The promised morning never came. promise we made for tomorrow. With someone, somewhere. That's right, Amelia.
He remembered her silver hair shimmering in the moonlight and her bashful smile. He remembered the promise he had made to her, a girl who shines as brightly under the moonlight as the stars in the sky.
Beatrice.
Such familiarity, I suppose.
What day is it today? Do you know what time it is?
Subaru, who had been silent, had begun asking her questions without pausing. Beatrice seemed annoyed by this and snorted at him.
For Betty, who spends her days in the frozen time of the library, the months and days and hours outside mean nothing, in fact.
Get to the point!
Betty has no idea, in fact.
Shit! Useless! It was foolish of me to have even the slightest expectations!
He just says whatever he likes, in fact. This guy.
Beatrice scrunched up her nose at Subaru's inconsiderate words. Seeing her familiar, distorted face, Subaru came to a realization.
But you, at least, didn't speak to me like a stranger. And just a bit ago, you said I'd use my door cracking just like earlier. Shit, I'm confused.
What are you going on and on about? You shouldn't be so noisy in the library, in fact. You'll ruin the tranquility, I suppose.
Beatrice capped her response with a sigh, clearly fed up with Subaru's attitude. He awaited her further response by silently staring at her.
3 or maybe 4 hours ago, you were being a moron and teased Betty, I suppose.
What happened to time being frozen within the library?
Even though he was so weak, he couldn't miss the chance to jump at Beatrice's mistake. After taking said chance, he pondered what he heard her say.
An encounter between Beatrice and Subaru 3 or 4 hours ago. That probably meant the first time I woke up in Roswell Mansion, when the illusion of the infinite hallway was lifted. I guess right on my first try. Then Beatrice's hands drained me of my energy, and I couldn't help falling into a coma. Next thing I knew, I woke up in bed, and there was Ram and Rem. So, in other words, that's where I am now, waking up in Roswell's house for the second time.
Subaru briefly recalled each of the scenes before coming to his realization. That was the only time the twin maids had both come to wake up Subaru. Furthermore, that was the only time Subaru had the status needed to use the guest room.
So, that means I went back for 4 of the 5 days I've been here. Is that what you're saying?
After getting an accurate read of the situation, Subaru determined what had happened. Some mysterious force had sent him back in time again, without his consent and by an unexpected amount. Subaru could accept that had happened, but that was far from satisfied. He held his head in his hands and thought about what may have caused him to get sent back like that. Before, Subaru had only gone back in time to the same day, and it had only happened on his first day after being summoned to another world. He had saved Amelia by dying 3 times over, and had judged the loop to have been broken. In fact, no time travel by means of his return by death had ever taken place since, and the 5 days spent at Roswell's Manor had all passed extremely peacefully.
Then, all of a sudden, I got sent back in time and ended up here. No forewarning or anything. Are the conditions different from last time? I'd assumed it only happened when I died. So it also sent me back after a week? No. If that were the case, then...
It wouldn't explain why he'd been rewound back to this day. He didn't know why or how he was being sent back in time. But since it had happened more than once, there had to be some rules. One of them was the issue of where he revives. He suspected that if he hadn't escaped the loop, he would have woken up in front of Scarface in the fruit stand.
But instead of a middle-aged man with scars on his face, I actually woke up seeing 2 angelic-looking maids. Albeit, I felt like I was in hell rather than heaven.
Upon saying that, Subaru touched his body to make sure he was safe. If the rules and conditions were the same as before, it was clear to Subaru why he had gone back in time like this. He had died. That then raised a different problem.
If that's the case, how did I die? Everything was normal until I fell asleep. Even afterward, I never felt like I was dead at all.
He had been asleep, but he wondered if that was enough to prevent him from remembering even a hint of the moment he was killed. There was the possibility that he had been overcome by poison or a gas that rendered him unconscious forever. That would mean he had been assassinated, though, which seemed impossible since he hadn't done anything to warrant it. As things were, he didn't even slightly believe he was worth paying someone to kill.
Maybe it's a forced loop that I didn't fulfill the conditions to clear?
He looked at it like a game mechanic. It was the same as not clearing the quest objectives. However, in addition to not knowing who was setting them, he had no idea what objectives he needed to pass. It was hard to finish a quest when it wasn't marked whether the flags had been cleared or not. It was a bad side effect of the internet that people tended to rely on strategy guides.
Telling and getting tips from your friends, real and fake rumours spreading by word of mouth, progressing little by little. That's the classic way to have fun, isn't it?
Betty thought you were just muttering to yourself, but it's starting to ruin the mood, in fact.
Beatrice muttered disinterestedly while she watched Subaru sink further into a sea of thought. He looked up at the sound of her voice to see her lips curling in annoyance at being ignored.
Their life, their death. When it comes to humans, it's so boring and worthless. Only lies and nonsense are said in the end. It's not even worth discussing, in fact.
The girl shrugged her shoulders, casually dismissing his words. That unchanged air of hostility towards Subaru gave him no small amount of relief, and with it, he stood back up. He brushed the dust off his butt and reached for the doorknob behind him.
Going already, I suppose?
There's something I need to see to. I can wallow in misery later. Thanks for saving me.
I didn't do anything, in fact. Just get out. The crossing needs to be altered, in fact.
No kindness could be heard in her words, but strangely, Subaru found comfort in them nonetheless. Although he doubted it was her intention, Subaru felt that her words were pushing him forward. He twisted the doorknob and stepped out into a cool breeze. Wind ruffled his short bangs. He felt a faint pain in his eyes, so he covered his face with his arm. Then the wind died down, and he could feel grass on the soles of his bare feet.
Oh, still beautiful.
His attention was turned to a silver-haired girl he spotted breathing softly in the garden. Inwardly, he cursed the cheeky little girl for her cunning move.
Subaru!
The young woman had noticed him, opened her deep blue eyes, and rushed towards him in a panic. The sound of silvery bells spilled from her lips when she spoke but 3 syllables. 3 syllables that no matter how many times they are called out, they always bring a fresh tremor to his heart. As if by instinct, Subaru's feet moved towards the girl running towards him. Once she faced him, she looked over his entire body, and the corners of her eyes lowered in relief. She quickly regained her composure, however, and then straightened her posture and her gaze.
Don't worry me like that again. You disappeared right after you woke up. Ram and Rem have been running around the mansion in panic.
Sorry. Beatrice held me up for a little while.
Again? I heard she pulled a prank on you earlier.
As Amelia's beautiful but concerned face drew near, Subaru reached out to her, his own weak heart restraining itself in the face of her vulnerability. It wasn't the time or place for that, though. Doing so would mean the time he had spent calming down in Beatrice's room would be pointless. It wasn't the time for false accusations. Subaru's only response to Amelia's melancholic face was to give her a weak smile. It was uncharacteristic for Subaru, but Amelia's reserved personality didn't permit her to dig deeper into that. It was only natural. She had only spent an hour with Subaru. There was no way she would even know if he was acting out of character or not.
There's now a 4-day gap between us that will never be filled. 4 whole days that I will remember. And she never will. Your thoughts are sounding like white noise, Subaru.
White noise? What do you mean?
Nothing. I was just trying to be poetic. Anyway, I'm glad you're alright.
She was wearing black knee socks and a skirt that ended above her knees. A somewhat sporty outfit with black as its primary color scheme. It was the same outfit that had delighted Subaru back on the first day he was here. Naturally, the body under the clothes had managed to escape the loot house in one piece.
The body under the clothes? That sounds a little erotic in my head.
I was going to thank you for helping me, but I really don't like the way you're looking at me.
Despite being glared at by her, Subaru managed to crack a smile. Little by little, he was starting to get back to normal. The gears were turning. He moistened his lips with his tongue. It was time for Natsuki Subaru to start over.
Actually, this is kind of a lucky break, if I think about it. I'm not starting in front of the fruit seller. There's no chance of triggering the death by Tonchinkan flag, or of saying something stupid to Emilia when we first meet, and starting us off with her having the lowest approval rating of me possible. Elsa's ridiculous Bow Festival end is off the table too. I guess nobody could break the passionate bond that burns between the two who shared lives and deaths and survived the Battle of the Loot House. It might just be a small spark burning right now, but given the chance, it will bloom into an inferno! That's it, Subaru! Positive thinking!
If he looked in hindsight with a positive attitude, he realized the situation was also an opportunity. Unlike the last loop, where they were facing certain death at the loot house, there was no imminent danger to face until they confronted the direct cause of the loop. In other words, Subaru just needed to calm down and retrace the route he had already experienced, and just modify it to be more ideal. Even if he did everything the same, he would still end up exchanging a promise on a moonlit night.
I wonder how much more promising the Moonlight Promise will be if I do it even better this time and make it a superior route. Nice! This time I know what the climax will be from the start!
You sure seem excited. Are you feeling alright?
Oh, I feel great! Super great! Perfect, actually! I'm a little short on blood, my energy was taken away, my strength and spirit were completely and selfishly drained when I woke up, and my mental resistance was damaged as if I got hit by a bat at full swing, but I'm feeling good!
Isn't that damage done to every part of you?
This opportunity is like being the pinch hitter at baseball. I'm the bottom of the 9th, there's 2 outs, and you're at bat!
He snapped his fingers and gave her a thumbs up. Seeing Subaru's attitude, Amelia's venomous expression relaxed.
In any case, it's good you're feeling good. Were you heading back to the mansion? I have a little business I need to attend to here.
Time for some spirit talk, right? Could I stay with you if I don't get in the way? I'd like to get some floof time with Park when he wakes up.
I don't mind, but you seriously can't interrupt me, alright? I'm not playing.
Tilting her head as Subaru was wiggling his fingers, Amelia spoke to him like she was instructing a child. Subaru couldn't help but love the way she would act like an older sister. It lit his heart like a flame of determination.
Wow! Let's go! Let's go! Time is finite, the world is grand, and my time with Emilia Tan has just begun!
Yeah, let's... Huh? What did you say just now? Tan? Where did that come from?
It's fine, it's fine.
Ignoring Amelia's protest, Subaru pushed her back and guided her to her position. He already knew that as she kept on clarifying the things he said, she'd eventually lose the will to do so and just go along with them. That was part of the bond they had forged over the 4 days that had been lost.
I'll get them back.
He whispered that as he followed her towards the back of the garden. All the while, she still looked dissatisfied. He suddenly stopped and looked at the silver-haired girl that was receding into the distance, then looked up into the sky.
I can see the sun in the eastern sky rising ominously. I just need to repeat this 4 more times, and the promised morning will arrive. All I have to do is watch the sun come back up to take up the promise made by a gal who's like the moon. I have time, and I know the solution. I don't know who's harassing me, but I'll take back all those days and smile. Don't you dare underestimate modern kids with short tempers!
He clenched his fist and raised it toward the sky, declaring war on whoever it was. It was his clear declaration of rebellion against the existence that had summoned and imposed the loops on Subaru. The first he had made since being summoned to this world. And the second battle against the loops had begun, to overcome the weak at Roswell Manor, and to see the days that came after, to keep the promise that they had made that night, the promises they exchanged.
Lord Fate! Bring it on!
Alright, and that was chapter 14. Good job, everybody.
Good job, everyone!
There we are.
That was a nice shifting of narrators. Very smooth, everybody. Thank you so
My
much.
my deepest apologies.
It happens, Gojo. Don't worry about
It's
it.
okay.
We managed to do well. Everybody worked together there. It was great.
Team building
About
exercise.
30 seconds after Tailby took over from me, one of my cats jumped on my keyboard and knocked over my mic anyway, so
Oh,
that worked out.
It's a freaking domino effect.
Mhm.
Jeez.
I don't know what's going on with our setups today, but it's like the Earth is not on any of our sides right now. I had the worst fucking time with stream while we were reading. Oh my gosh, everything was glitching and popping out. The mic's being funky.
The chaos is spreading.
The chaos
Yes.
is fucking spreading.
It's infecting everyone.
Happy Halloween season, everybody.
Oh, thanks for the 5.
Oh, it is a full moon
memberships.
tonight, isn't it?
Oh, nice. Also, we just got 5 memberships. Let's go.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Belly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so much, Belly.
Thank you.
Hey, Belly. Oh, and I didn't have your effects on.
Cindy
Those reset after 30 days, not after on the month, right?
That would be a scam if it were.
There it is.
That's how Patreon does it.
Yeah, Patreon does it on the month, and then YouTube and Twitch do it on the day that you set it up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Anone?
We're gonna get 3 more of those. Thank you.
All right, we're all syncing. We're all syncing. Anone.
Let's see when the next one comes.
Anane.
I love that sound bit. Ugh. Okay, 2 more to go. Thank you, Belly. Yay.
What did everyone think of that chapter?
It was a long one.
Subaru be coping.
He'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
Coping
trying.
hard.
Yeah.
He's huffing that copium.
I
Hardest
couldn't
go.
really believe how visceral, like, his first loop here, like, really feels to him.
Yes.
Well, this is the first time that he's lost days, right? So he's losing relationships with people, even though they probably don't mean as much to the people that he's making them with. To him, they're really important. So when he loses that time he's set up with people, it's kind of like he's losing part of himself.
Well, this is, like, really also the first one where he's lost them by looping and not looped to save them as well.
Yeah.
It adds that real extra level of sadness too, because even like at the start of the chapter when Ram and Rem are trying to comfort him in their own way by doing their own joking act, it actually hurts him even more. It's just really sad.
The last chapter ended with them calling him dear guest or sir, is like really what sets him over the edge of, like, I've lost the people who I, as he said, like, he could have loved, he cared about, he liked a lot, and they're gone.
And I think he knows this deep down. I think this is just him coping with it. But he's never truly going to be able to exactly replicate what he got with those 5 days ever again. That's one of the unique tragedies about Subaru's situation, is that he loses very special moments that he can never truly replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And even if he replicates them in a similar way by trying to force it with how he acts, it probably feels very ungenuine to him in a lot of sense, I imagine.
It's kind of like watching a movie twice.
Mm-hmm.
Just watered down each time.
Or watching the TV cut of a movie. And
Oh
seeing everything
yeah,
that you-
random bits are just gone.
Mhm.
Shit was better in the theater.
Always is.
He didn't lose anything real with Beatrice, at least, which is a point of focus kind of going forward from here.
Yeah, Beatrice is his one kind of connection that he has.
I feel like if he didn't have Beatrice, he would have absolutely lost it in this chapter.
Oh yeah, he when he ran to the library and used it as a space to calm down, he was very much using her energy to anger himself a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that he kind of just runs there in a panic and ends up there by instinct alone.
Yeah.
Like, she's saying he broke the door crossing again, so she wasn't, like, looking to grab him and save him. It was just, it's where he felt he was trying to get to, and went straight there.
Yeah.
It's also interesting, like, how his technical one connection to the old world was basically him getting technically attacked by Beatrice in the managering.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We've joked about it before, but the P arc is the only thing that's going to stay canon from
Yep.
arc 2 so far.
There's no erasing that shame.
Nope.
We love the PR.
At least he erased the embarrassment of Amelia pointing out that she has seen him naked, and him,
Oh yeah.
I'll never be your bride.
It's just, I think this was a part of ReZero, especially when I was first watching, that I really wasn't expecting, which is like the emotional weight of Subaru losing all this time with the people he spends it with.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a unique concept that I don't think I've really felt be replicated too much in other media, even that's similar to ReZero before. So it makes you feel a lot, honestly.
I think
Definitely.
it's the fact that he doesn't know why like, the loop started again, that makes him, like, really just, like, it feels, like, unfair. Like, the loop before was almost like a tool where he's like, I fucked it up. Now I have time to go back. But this one's just like, I was doing everything right. What happened? Why did this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
He feels like he's been punished for doing something wrong, but he doesn't know what he's done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When
He
in
can't-
reality, he hasn't really done anything wrong. He's just...
I mean, that's not true. He has done some things terribly wrong.
Well, yeah.
But
But I mean, when it comes to, like, in terms of decision making, yes. I more mean in terms of, like, committing some great sin, if that makes sense.
mm-hmm.
It's like in his own mind, he doesn't understand. That's why this arc in particular is probably one of the most important for developing how he interacts with people.
It also just establishes how he actually is meant to use the loops.
Yeah.
Whereas Arc 1 is more just, okay, you failed, try again. Like here, as he's saying, like, he's determined to repeat everything from the last time just to get back to what he's already lost, which is a new way to use it from previously, where he was trying something different each time.
Yeah, it becomes less of almost like a game mechanic in the way he's thinking of it, and becomes more of like something with more of an emotional importance, I think. I mean, because obviously he still had emotions behind what he was doing in Arc 1, but I think the way the lens he viewed it through was as a game. And now I think after this event in particular, that might be changing the way he views things a bit.
He doesn't refer to them as save points in
Yeah.
these chapters either, which I think, I mean, granted, I wasn't literally translating Arc 1, I was just proofreading and editing it. But I thought that was interesting to note, that he makes it the point where he goes back to or wakes up at, but not called the save point like he did in Arc 1.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how his attempts to maintain everything from the last route we'll go for here.
Yeah, I think it's very hard, even though Subaru makes some very strange choices and decisions. I think it's very hard not to sympathize, at least, with the human struggle he's going through.
So this chapter, if anything, does make him feel more sympathetic.
I'm very excited to see how this is handled in the web novel.
Ooh, I see Drink just commented. Why aren't the Arc 5 readings progressing? Sorry to interrupt that quick chat. Arc 5 is in processing right now because we're missing my lines for narration, and I've been sick for the past month and 2 weeks exactly. If you might notice, my Amelia is not sounding normal. For whatever reason, this bug that's going around has affected my throat specifically. So last week was the first time I voice acted, but after that it kind of messed up my vocal cords. So I'm resting for a few more days before I can get back to voice acting. I won't lie, it's really pissing me off because we're so close to moving forward. I actually have somebody to edit the audio. But if I push myself too hard, I could really damage my voice in the long term. So we're just waiting a little bit longer. I'm so irritated because I want to get back to voice acting, but it'll be ready soon. It's very soon. Everyone else has done their lines, just not me. I'm the asshole.
Once we're past this initial hump, it should start going a lot smoother as well to knock out the rest of Arc 5.
Yeah, we'll be assigning the remaining narrators. Thankfully, the next set of narrators is me anyways, so once I get started up again, we'll have everything done, so. I think we only have about 15 chapters for narration left, approximately. Math is hard. But we have
I think
so
there's
many...
12 missing it.
12, okay. But we have so many people who want to narrate that we'll have them all before I'm probably even done the Liliana ones. So that works! Yay!
Yay, indeed.
Everybody
All
ready
right.
for chapter 15?
Oh, beforehand, I probably have to go. I have to go to a birthday party. I just want to pop in for at least one chapter. Get back to
Okay.
things.
Dokie.
Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you.
Great work.
Tell the birthday person happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday!
If they can understand me, they're a baby.
Oh,
Yeah.
happy
baby.
birthday, baby!
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aldi, for tagging in for me. And great job, everyone. Amazing. Stellar.
You too, Gojo. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Alright, I'll see you in the future.
See you in the
See you next time, bud.
Next time.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Goodbye.
Get to that party.
All right, so this is the long one.
Yay.
Oh boy, here we go.
I'd suggest we split it in half because the next one's not necessarily short either, but the majority of it is a single scene.
Ah.
So if you're set, Tealdi, I think you, Golden Wolf, should be ready to go through.
I have the music ready.
I
I'll
don't
start
mind
this
helping
one
with
off
the
and
narration
then
on
we'll-
this one.
I can't wait to interact with my best friend Roswell.
We'll find a transition point somewhere further down.
There is a break at the very bottom.
Okay, all right. So when there's the line breaks, we can tag in.
Yeah. Connor, if you could put in the little flag for that too, that'd be awesome. Just like you did, Gojo.
You're the only person who gives me hope, Wolf.
Add it in
Thank you, appreciate you.
always.
Noise. Just gonna queue up the next song before I run. EMT, okay. Nice, nice, nice. All right, I am ready when you guys are.
Are we ready?
I am ready when you guys.
I'm ready for some exposition.
I'm ready.
Ready.
Okay, here we go. Arc 2, Chapter 15. Betrayed Expectations and a Second Miscalculation. With a challenge towards the rising sun, the first day at Roswell Mansion began for the second time.
Just 5 days. All I have to do is watch the sunset and rise for 5 days.
As to how he planned to spend the time of the next few days, Subaru's policy was follow the same steps as last time. As per his resolution made in the garden, Subaru was determined to fulfill the promise he made to Amelia before looping. In order to do so, He had to reach the moonlit night and make the promise again.
Thankfully, there was one assurance that comes along with looping like this, and that is, if I follow the same path, the story will reach the same end. This route should follow the same trends as the last one. The thoughts and actions of the people involved in it will repeat, and the same ending will be reached.
The only changes that Subaru would need to make were any that would be convenient to do and convenient for him in the end. Not to mention, making sure everyone remembers everything they're supposed to along the way. In other words, his ultimate goal was to make good use of the loop.
Basically, just like quick save and quick load to the ending you want.
Subaru's evil plan was noble, at least.
So why did it go so bad?
Subaru's expectations had been greatly disappointed from the very first day, so he sank into the bathtub, blubbering and looking quite disheartened as he did so. While floating in the steamy bathhouse, Subaru reflected back on the first day, the morning of the decision, and the huge tragedy that ensued. Immediately after the morning routine with Amelia, Subaru had secretly made up his mind about following the steps of the previous route. If he was honest, he didn't think he could remember the things he had said in the spur of the moment, but the general path the story followed should have been similar to the previous route. The right to fondle Puck, Amelia's nickname, his first meeting with Roswell, and explanations at breakfast of the value held by the insignia and Amelia's position. He wasn't sure if he had been able to recreate his natural reactions to everything, but he did feel he had done a good job overall. It was so good, in fact, he had wanted to get a gold star sticker for it, if he could have.
Then again, evaluating my acting score would probably be a disaster, so I'll pass on that.
Putting aside his own harsh comments about his acting, Subaru did have a handle on how things went down. After the explanations, they had naturally moved on to the topic of Subaru's reward. Just like before, Subaru had changed classes from otherworldly shut-in to perverted noble's servant in training. After that, Rom followed Subaru as his instructor, and they moved on to his first day of work, starting with a tour of the mansion. That was where things got strange.
I don't know why it went so differently from last time. I did my prep work, but it ended up differently. Ugh, this is just like with cram school. I was even excited to study this time.
Subaru was muttering to himself in the bath, his chin resting on the edge so only his face was out of the water. With the warmth washing over all the aches of his body, he looked back on more memories. As was his policy, he had been following the steps of the previous route, when Rom had assigned Subaru a different task than before, shattering his confidence in his ability to ride the momentum of events. The jobs like helping in the kitchen, doing laundry, or simply cleaning rooms, they were all the same kinds of tasks as before.
But the specifics of the task got a lot more difficult.
More specifically, the quantity and expected quality of his assigned work had increased. In other words, it was a lot more work.
It was exhausting enough last time, and this time it was even harder. Damn it! I thought repeating the work would make it easier.
Though he was complaining out loud about the harshness of the work, inwardly, he had come to the conclusion that the entire situation was becoming a problem. If things were so different after only a single day of trying to follow his steps from the last route, there was no way he could keep the second and subsequent days the same. On one hand, he wasn't concerned about small differences, but on the other hand, he was worried that the accumulation of them could become a big enough problem to change the big things later.
Especially since I don't even know why I got sent back.
The sequence of events this time was he slept normally, woke up, and found he had gone back. Unlike the last time he was looping, where it was clear that he would die and get sent back, he couldn't predict what would happen this time, though, so he would get tired just trying to think about how to deal with it.
If it's so different, I won't be able to rely on my memory anymore, will I?
Weakened voice had accidentally spilled out, so he sank lower into the water to regain his composure. Subaru thought back to the hectic day when he first met Amelia in the capital. He had taken a different path each time, but the general outline of what happened was the same each time. He wouldn't know if it was the same until he missed a big event. The only event big enough for him to remember over the lost 4 days, aside from the first day, was the promise he made with Amelia. As long as he can get there, the path should follow the same route as last time.
All I have to do is write it out and find out what it caused to the end.
Thoughts that somehow could not be summarized during the hectic hours of the day all came together in the solitude of the bath, and Subaru established a new firm policy. Naturally, Subaru was reaching the limits of his ability to hold his breath, and so emerged from beneath the surface of the warm water. Breaking the surface into cool air, he took in as big of a breath as he could.
Hey, mind if I join you?
There was a naked nobleman standing right in front of Subaru with his hands on his hips. Subaru regretted breathing when he did. A cool breeze blew in and reached Subaru from behind the man and through the space between his legs. Naturally, as they were in the bathroom, the tall man was completely naked. Whether it was because of his taste or a normal attitude for someone about to step into a bath, the naked nobleman was making no effort to hide the sacred sword at his waist. There was a naked man standing in arm's reach, with his sacred sword swaying in the wind, and looking down at Subaru. It was humiliating.
Sorry, this is a private party. I'll have to decline.
This facility is part of my mansion, and this is my property, is it not?
Then why'd you even ask? If you want to use your bath, then do it!
My, so harsh! And you misunderstand. It is true that this bathhouse is also my property.
Swell dropped down to one knee and leaned in close to Subaru, who was looking up at him from the bath. He then reached out his hand and gently pinched Subaru's unresisting chin.
But, as my servant, couldn't one say you are also my property?
How?
No hesitation!
Subaru had genuinely bitten the finger in front of his face, eliciting a scream from the man. He then backstroked away to make some distance from Roswell. The bathtub was about half the size of a 25-meter swimming pool. As to be expected from the rich, it was pointlessly large and tasteless, serving only to give the owner a sense of meaningless control when they relaxed by themselves. Regardless, relaxing in the bath after work had become Subaru's pastime throughout his time at the mansion.
Yet another unexpected change from last time.
Subaru rolled over into the bathwater and allowed himself to float in the water so that only his back broke the surface. It was the special technique called warm water coconut, and involved himself holding his submerged body in a curled-up ball. He allowed his body to bob in the water like an inanimate object for a time, just staring into the water while he thunk.
In the previous 4 days, Roswell and I didn't bathe together even once. Roswell was always so busy in the last loop. We barely even got the chance to see each other in the mansion. I think Ram and Rem met up with him pretty regularly, but I couldn't count the number of times I did on one hand, excluding meals, that is. It's not like I didn't have a habit of long baths after work. So, something probably has changed with Roswell.
Is that amusing for you?
It's my imitation of a tropical fruit and deadly weapon. The beef-side drifter. Master Coconut. Despite its paradise-like appearance, they can come crashing down on unsuspecting tourists right onto his head, and into medulla oblongata!
You do have quite a way with words. Pardon me as I sit beside you.
Let out a long exhale as he sat himself in the bath, right beside the floating Subaru. No words are needed to describe the universal pleasure of a warm bath. After subtly making some distance between himself and the scrawny man, Subaru stretched out and relaxed, like he had let his guard down.
It's rather late for you to be taking a bath, isn't it, my, lord and master?
A bit. Work has kept me quite busy. This was the only time I had after getting everything in order. However, I'm quite pleased I have this time to converse with you, So, how was your first day?
I had a productive time. If you want to listen, all of my muscles could give you some pillow talk. They'll have you crying by the morning.
That's a tempting offer, but I'm afraid my pillow has a prior reservation. Next time, though.
Couldn't help but get annoyed at that remark. The relationship between the nobleman before him and the twin mates had moved past the point of being suspicious and into the realm of certainty. Although Subaru claimed to have eyes only for Amelia, and in fact maintained an attitude of not paying attention to other women, still wasn't happy imagining two good-looking girls belonging to someone else.
Huh? Is this what it feels like to be cuckolded?
Thankfully, he didn't get any twisted sense of enjoyment out of that feeling. That did not mean, however, that he could say something mature like, "You two would make such a happy couple." All he could do was simply be envious.
All right, how are Rom and Rem doing? They have been working at the mansion for such a long time, so they should know how to train their juniors well. Yes?
Thoughts or not, Roswell had brought up the girls Subaru had been thinking of. Feeling like Roswell was leading the conversation based on his thoughts, Subaru nodded and answered the man.
Things aren't super great with Remrin, but I get along pretty well with Rami. Although Rami speaks to me without any kind of filter. Have you noticed? And it's not because of our current relationship either. She acted the same when she still called me dear guest.
Oh, well, Rem will be more than compensate for the difference. They're sisters, so they tend to rely on each other to cover their weaknesses. In that sense, they can be quite greedy with one another.
From what I've heard, Remrin is an all-purpose maid, while Rami is just an inferior copy of her little sister.
Both sisters had made it quite clear regarding who was superior and inferior in all housekeeping skills. The older sister was a league or two behind the younger one in every skill. Normally that kind of environment would be sure to give someone an inferiority complex.
When I asked Rem about it, she instantly replied, "Ram is my older sister, so she is better than me." She said it so brazenly too, it actually scared the shit out of me.
Speaking of, you are quite brazen as well, aren't you? Alas, did you respond to her in kind? That would be.
Shook his head solemnly, and then looked sideways at Subaru. Subaru flinched a little, being stared at by Roswell's strange eye, which seemed to hold no emotion, made Subaru feel as if Roswell could see right into his heart.
Quite a bold and intrusive move! Splendid!
Praising me at the end doesn't make that a compliment! I'm the type of guy who takes things at face value, so watch it if you're being sarcastic, alright? Like when a teacher at school says, "Go home now," I would immediately leave.
Subaru was the kind of guy that would ruin the mood in the worst possible way, then head straight home by himself. It was just in his nature to be isolated and alone whenever possible. Roswell laughed at Subaru's remark, closed an eye, and mouthed the word, "school."
No sarcasm here. I truly believe it's a good thing. Those two are basically in their own little world. I'm sure that an outsider coming in and stirring things up will bring some needed change.
So that's how it is.
That's how it is.
The two facing one another and exchanging remarks were up to their necks in the relaxing warmth of the bath, when suddenly, Subaru raised both eyebrows like a thought occurred to him.
Hey, Rosie, mind answering a question for me?
I'm still not used to having a nickname, but I do love hearing it. Now, a question? Well, after giving it some deep consideration, I suppose I can answer with my extensive and profound knowledge.
I've never seen someone confess to being a know-it-all in such a roundabout way. Anyway, How exactly does this bath work?
Subaru punctuated the question that had been on his mind for some time by tapping the bottom of the bathtub. The bath, which was used by Subaru and everyone else, was made of stone. The stone itself had the appearance of being quite rough, but was polished and smooth to the touch. The bath was located in a corner of the mansion's basement. The bathhouse was unisex, but the hot water was changed out for each bather, so nobody would be able to get any pleasure from coming in after Amelia and drinking the hot water.
Well, it's not like I actually drank any. I noticed that before taking a sip.
Your adventurous spirit is quite amazing. Well, you are young. I wonder if such a thought ever occurred to me when I was young.
I looked off into the distance, thinking about his past, then came back to the present after a moment.
Anyway, the answer is simple. Beneath the bottom of the tub is a spread of fire ore. But when it's time for a bath, we use mana to boil the water. Surely you've seen the same phenomenon in the kitchen, right?
Ah, so the same principle was used for pots and kettles then? And no, I'd been wondering how they were doing it since you don't have gas stoves or IH counters.
Subaru had always had his back to Ram and Rem when they were handling those things in the kitchen, while he was busy peeling things that resembled vegetables. However, as long as he didn't understand the true nature of what it meant to use mana, which everyone else took for granted, he didn't think it was worth getting involved in warming the bath or boiling water.
Is using mana something that only magicians are able to do?
That is not the case. All living things have a gate, even plants and animals. Otherwise, the use of magic ores wouldn't have been developed in the civilization as much as it has.
Silently expressed his confusion at yet another new word he didn't understand was said. Roswell laughed at the sullen, childish expression.
Oh, with the way you treated spirits and your behavior at breakfast, you seem to be a bit strangely lacking in common sense, don't you? Ram was complaining about that, you know?
Huh? What? No! Her talking behind my back? How evil! Oh no!
She covered for you as much as she complained, and that is unusual.
So she was just being a tsundere! I'm so sorry, senpai! So she started down the Derry road again. Just like I heard from Amelia in the last loop. It happened on the first day, though. I'm weirdly nervous that she's trying to become the heroine. It's always the ones you least expect.
To Subaru's sudden exclamation, Roswell touched his chin, then raised a finger and smiled.
Well then, allow me to give you a lesson here. You're a tad ignorant, so I shall teach you what a magician is.
Hey! Don't ignore me! If you didn't know, the great Kawasaki, who was showered in praises like best fighter in the world, the rigidly frugal, he whose knowledge and good looks are truly outstanding, was my next door neighbour.
Who is this Kawasaki?
My senior by 4 years. Not too long ago, his bride-to-be got cold feet right before their wedding, and he got his heart broken. It was a real mess.
Must have understood that what Subaru said wasn't worth his concern, even though he didn't understand what he was saying. So he disregarded Kawasaki and continued his lesson.
Hey, don't ignore me. Now then, let's start with the beginner level. Subaru, my boy, you know about the gate, correct?
No. Despite you mentioning it like it was supposed to be obvious, as someone who doesn't know about it, I'm just left wondering, what's that?
The tone of your voice has changed quite suddenly. And you don't know about the gate? To put it mildly, no way. That's what it feels like. Did I use that correctly?
Roswell a thumbs up and a high five to confirm he had used no way perfectly. They then pointed a finger at one another and shared a look.
So, what is a gate exactly? Is it like where you show up and everyone goes, "Who are you?" Shit! The tension is already rising!
Simply put, a gate is a doorway that allows mana to pass in and out of your body. You take in mana through your gate and release mana through your gate. Whether you use it or store it, it's an essential part of life.
I see! So it's like a faucet for your MP.
Concise explanation made sense to Subaru. The word gate was a term he had heard several times before, and was confirmed to be about what he imagined.
If everyone has a gate, that means I have one too?
That would be the case, so long as you are confident that you are human. You are human, yes?
You've never met someone as human as me. Just a tiny, weak human.
That was a rather excited statement, though that seems a little inappropriate for the situation.
Thing two men naked together in a bathtub would say, at least, but Subaru didn't quite agree. Hearing that maybe the second most exciting piece of information he had gotten since coming to another world. He was so excited he felt like his heart was about to burst.
Of course, getting Amelia Tan's name was the best. But this is pretty awesome too! It's happening! I'm finally fulfilling my dream of becoming a magician! I thought I had 13 more years to go!
It's true that becoming skilled takes quite some time, but isn't 13 more years a little much?
It's just a saying. The magicians I know get their titles automatically on their birthday. I was on track to earning that title too.
Certainly was, if he had maintained the mindset he had before getting summoned to another world. However, in the new world, there was a girl who he had his heart's desire set upon. Now it could be said, that's the reason Subaru was summoned to the world.
Hooah! Boing! And become a man! The end was in sight!
It's so nice to see you are so excited about becoming a magician. Do note that your ability is largely dependent on natural ability. I don't mean to boast, but it isn't every day you find someone as gifted as me, you know.
Subaru could almost hear the sound of a flag being raised. Roswell was speaking with confidence, but he was missing one key detail. He had no idea that the other naked man floating in the tub with him was the invited one, summoned from another world. So far, he had no positive points, no combat ability, no knowledge, less than 0 luck, but now a new hope for him had appeared.
And that is magic.
Subaru clenched his fist, somehow feeling a sense of certainty. Then, unable to hold back his feelings, swam over to Roswell.
Hey, Rosie! Let's talk about magic! The time for magic is now! The wave is coming, and you've got no choice but to ride it!
Is that so? Then let's continue. At its core, magic is divided into 4 types of mana. Are you familiar with them?
I sure don't!
Ha ha ha! Such nonsensical, mindlessly innocent ignorance! Splendid! I'm in a good mood, so I'll explain it to you. The 4 basic mana affinities are fire, water, wind, and earth. Understand?
Understood. Please, continue if you would.
Never having entered a bar, the two were getting drunk just off of the mood. At Subaru's request, Roswell nodded his head, still feeling good.
Fire mana is related to energy, water mana to life and healing. Mana of the wind type is related to divine protections outside the body of a living creature, and mana of the earth is related to the divine protections within the body. Generally speaking, mana can be divided into these 4 categories, and if one has an affinity for one of them, all the better. On that note, did you know I happen to have an affinity for all 4?
Whoa, brag much? But since this isn't getting anywhere, I'll give you some hollow praise. Oh wow, you're so cool. Come on, let's keep it going. How can I find out my affinity?
In excitement, Subaru slammed his hands onto the surface of the water, making a thud sound. Roswell smiled and held his palm out towards Subaru.
Oh, of course. When you are a great magician like myself, you can tell with a simple touch. Well, actually, I'll enter and examine the makeup of your gate. If that's all right.
No way! No way! It's happening! Take a look and touch me! What am I? Tell me!
Subaru, having forgotten that they were both stark naked, got up close to Roswell and was wiggling in excitement so fast it was practically leaving an afterimage. Roswell laughed like he was entertained by an ill-disciplined dog, then put his palm on Subaru's forehead.
Alrighty then. Pardon me for just a moment. But does your bottom have a certain itch?
My ass does itch! I can scratch it myself, though! You just focus on learning my affinity instead. Oh, no way! My heart is really racing!
Just for a moment, Subaru wanted to forget all his anxieties and focus solely on the beautiful scene unfolding before him. He had hoped for this, dreamed of it, and now finally thought it was going to happen.
This magic is going to be the natural weapon I get in return for getting summoned into another world.
Shining smile tugged at the ends of Subaru's lips that looked rather wicked when paired with his evil-looking eyes. But as he was waiting for his examination results, his eyes shone brightly too.
Alright. I think I got it.
Here it comes! The moment I've been waiting for! So, what is it? What is it? Fire to match my fiery, passionate nature? Or is it water to reflect the cool guy side to me that's all calm and collected? Oh, is it wind to go with my nice and refreshing attitude that goes with the flow? No, wait! I could be the awesome, reliable guy with the maturity to be like everyone's big brother. So, it's Earth, right?
It's yin.
Oh, we're ejected!
Hearing such shocking results, Subaru reacted like he had just been given a terminal disease diagnosis. Seeing his mood had become so depressed so quickly, Roswell opened his mouth to continue.
It's definitely all yin. The affinity towards the other 4 attributes is quite weak. This is quite rare indeed.
What do you mean by yin? I thought there were only 4 affinities. This is a category error.
I hadn't mentioned them, but in addition to those 4 attributes, there's also the yin attribute and the yang attribute. It is just that there are very few people who have such affinities, so I didn't bother mentioning them.
It seemed that he had drawn quite a rare lot. Hearing that, Subaru's panicking thoughts began to calm down. It was, in fact, just a very rare affinity to have.
So, it must be a crazy awesome attribute then. Like the kind that only appears once every 5,000 years. Is it like I can use magic that no other bloodline can handle?
Well, yin magic is used for things like obscuring an opponent's vision, cutting off sound, impeding movement. It's used for that sort of thing.
It's for debuffs!
Hoping for something unparalleled in power, like being able to use some kind of amazing super destructive spells, or being able to drag enemies into the Shadow Realm and tear them into pieces.
Though, judging from the way Roswell was looking at me, and how he explained the ways it can impede an ability or movement, it seems like he feels sorry for me. I guess it must be true. So despite being summoned to another world, I didn't get any cheap power to help with combat or intelligence. And my affinity is for debuffs.
And from what I can tell, you don't seem to have any talent for magic at all. If I was a 10, your limit would be 4.
I didn't want to hear that! There truly is no god or Buddha in this world!
The violent twist, Subaru crashed back against the surface of the hot water. He received a pitying look, but Subaru, who was floating in a heap, was too disappointed to notice. Roswell still made an attempt to cheer him up, though.
Hold on. Yin magic is surprisingly useful. You can disable someone's vision when you don't want to be seen, or their hearing if you don't want to be heard.
I see! So they specialize in private conversations! Or rather, secret meetings! That's pretty great!
Subaru stood up and reached out his hand to Roswell.
That could be cool, right?
Regardless if it's cool or not, girls who want to be in secret will appreciate it. Everything's about how you use it. Either way, you can't use it at all right now.
You're right. Magic is magic, right? It would be a shame to waste it, even if it's specialized for debuffs. Shit, I don't know what to do.
Feeling, Roswell continued without concern.
If you want to use it, then why don't you learn to? Fortunately for you, there happens to be a Yin magic master here.
Oh, really? Good idea. I guess it doesn't matter what affinity for magic I have. As long as I can be taught magic, who cares if I can use it or not? In other words?
Rapidly splitting the surface of the water, Subaru stood up with one hand on his hip and the other pointed towards the sky. A nude figure emerged with a splash and pose, right in front of Roswell.
Getting magic lessons for my girl so tight. After work she guides me, hands on my hips, all right. Hand in hand we sail to a future so bright. Then the spark's on its way, our love taking flight. Oh yeah!
Declared his intention for the future with an impromptu rap.
If that's the case, then there's no choice. Time to jump on this immediately!
I should correct you, as you seem to have misunderstood, but Madame Amelia is not an expert on yin magic, you see.
No freaking way. Wait, yo! You've got a grudge against me, ain't that right? Does playing with people's heart bring you delight? Yo?
Managed to recover his rhythm from before, and then he pointed his finger right at Roswell.
Then it's you, Mr. Court Magician. You are a super elite with affinity to all attributes. Man, that's disappointing.
It's Beatrice.
That's even worse!
The loudest scream of the night was accompanied by a huge splash of water.
Oh, shit! That hot water really got to me, Rosie. That bastard. He kept raining and lowering my spirits. Up, down, up, down. It was like the arm of the Buddha.
Subaru blurted out while putting on some provided clothes in the changing room. After a quick break from the disappointing talk in the bath, Subaru had left Roswell there and made his way out first.
I never was a big fan of thumb baths. Sure, recently I've made a habit to take one to relax my body and collect my thoughts, but original Subaru style is to get in and get out in a flash.
As a result, he was feeling pretty lightheaded, not to mention that he was still recovering from blood loss that day. There was also a subtly difference in what his mind wanted and body needed, which also left him feeling rather unpleasant.
And on top of that, I'm pretty sure my muscles are going to be sore tomorrow. Damn it, Rami. You wait and see. Just because I did better than last time doesn't...
As you wish, I'll be sure to do so.
Oh, Fluff!
He was so surprised that he jumped, dropping the basket of his clothes. His underwear got flung out of his hands too, and landed right at Ram's feet, in the hall just outside of the changing room.
Good grief.
She squatted down to retrieve Subaru's underwear, which was still soaked in sweat from the day's work, and threw them into the trash can near her.
The man before you was taking that basket to wash, you know?
Apologies. The moment I held them, I was filled with so much pathological disgust, I had to dispose of them as fast as possible.
You sure did it gracefully if that was the case.
Nearing the point of tears, Subaru retrieved his underwear from the trash, put it back in the basket, and turned back to Ram. The maid was waiting quietly outside the changing room, leaning against the wall. Subaru tilted his head, wondering why she was there. She answered, perhaps guessing his inventions.
Already bathed, so even if you wait, you won't see me undress.
You really don't get me at all, do you? That's pretty fatal for a maid.
I was joking. The reason I'm here is to help Master Roswell change into his clothes. It is a rule that Ram or Ram must attend to him after he bathes.
Isn't that too much pampering? He could do that by himself. Well, I guess there are some people who are so pampered that they have their socks put on by someone other than themselves their entire life. This is a big world. Maybe I misjudged Roswell and he's actually that kind of guy. However, my already small amount of trust in Rosy just got even smaller.
You should refrain from making disrespectful remarks in front of Ram. I'll use force next time I have to remind you.
She said it gently and as a suggestion, but Subaru took it as a fact and decided to keep it in mind.
Actually, she always teaches me kindly and politely the first time, but after that, if I ask her the same question, she just looks at me like coldly, like I was a pig on a farm primed for slaughter.
Subaru decided to leave sooner than later, not wanting to see what would happen if he stayed any longer.
Well then, if you would excuse me, senpai.
Barasu, what are you doing afterwards?
Going straight to fucking bed, what else? I have an early start tomorrow, thanks to some bitch, and that's hard work for me to do, senpai.
Subaru's words were mixed between rebellious and weak-spirited, to which Ram responded with a soft and quiet,
Got it.
Subaru then stared at her unmoving face for a moment before she called out to him, seemingly having to come to a decision.
Barasu,
Yes?
if that's the case, then wait up in your room. I'll join you there shortly.
Huh?
She said nothing else on the matter.
Oh, that took some turns.
What the fuck? I'm sorry for that giggle during the serious part of the line. I was not expecting that at all. What the fuck?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god. Okay, that was amazing. Oh, amazing job, everyone. Oh. There's a reason I'm doing voice acting and not rap, though, that's for sure.
Oh my god.
Oh, that was the whitest rap
I love
ever.
rapping, though. I want to rap one day.
I saw the line coming up like 2 lines before it was gonna happen, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Ah,
it's like,
good
oh,
luck, good luck."
prepare.
Hey, I made it as cringe as I could. It was authentic to Subaru, okay?
you were
In
cringe
character,
for
in
free.
character.
Keep in mind, though, he is standing up with a hand on his hip, booty butt naked in front of
Sacred sword in
Roswell while
Roswell's
doing
face.
it.
I was keeping that in mind the entire time I was voice
Oh, you
acting.
could have used it as a mic.
I'm not gonna lie, that has to be possibly one of my favourite chapters I've ever voiced. Just me and Roswell talking shit to each other was great.
Oh yeah, it's that's a lot of fun to read, but holy shit, that is the most difficult translation I've done yet.
Yeah, I can imagine.
For killing it. That was wild.
It seems like it was pretty hard.
I noticed there was no description of Subaru having a sacred sword. That's a little disappointing.
Oh yeah, it's a
implied.
little disappointing.
Or it's just not as impressive as Roswell's.
Was there ever any doubt?
I think that's implied.
Well,
They say it pretty explicitly in the anime, because when he comes out, instead of like having a robe on or whatever he has here, he's just grabbing his clothes when Ram walks up, and he drops them when in surprise, and she just tells him, "Put that sorry thing away."
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Gross cock, senpai.
Kohai.
Kohai.
Yeah, get
Yeah.
it right.
Damn, okay.
Senpai is not impressed.
I'm not I'm not gonna lie. That last little rant from Subaru at the end was like one of the most unexpected things I've ever
very
seen.
funny.
I was not expecting to go full on like
Fuck that bitch.
fuck this hole.
Yeah, that was funny. I can't believe like this chapter especially how from the perspective of Roswell, this entire chapter, Subaru just kept on saying nonsense to him, and I'm just like, I wonder what like Roswell's even thinking. Which made me also come to this idea that I think this is definitely as he's like starting to be like, this guy is weird and special. Like he even said, "Are you even human?" I think that he probably actually is wondering that. He's like, who is this? Like, what is he even talking about? Like, why does he not know anything? Why is he saying all these weird words to me as if like it means something? Like, I think it's a genuine like reaction from him.
Yeah.
So I actually caught something translating the chapter that I never would have found if I was only reading it English this time. So I made a note of it at the top of this one too regarding
in
that.
magic.
No, it's actually about the pillow talk comment. Because Subaru says the words pillow talk in English, but Roswell responds mentioning the word pillow in Japanese. So he caught what he was saying, and like later on he's like mouthing the word school. Like he does the whole no way thing, but that feels like it's part of the character he plays. He knows a lot more than he's letting on, and it's very subtly hinted in there.
That's wild.
That's kind of spooky, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed was in the translation or in like the narrator's notes where it's like he hoped that it would be something that could send something to a shadow realm or something, but it wasn't that.
I noticed that too.
But of course, we know that's actually the ultimate form of yin magic anyway, so he does have that hope still. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I have other thoughts, but everyone wants to go.
If you were curious about that as well, the phrasing for Shadow Realm is 1-to-1 the phrasing from Yu-Gi-Oh! So
Yeah, I
it is
figured.
just straight
Right.
up send you to the Shadow Realm.
Do we think Subaru plays Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah,
Or has
Of
watched
course,
Yu-Gi-Oh?
he's
I
definitely.
think he's
playing.
mentioned it before. Like he was talking about the cards and the turns with Beatrice the last chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking Arc 1 he may have explicitly mentioned it, but I'm not positive.
I wouldn't be surprised if Subaru has played Yu-Gi-Oh. Probably during his middle school career.
Mm-hmm.
This chapter genuinely surprised me, I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting it to be like a fun comedic chapter, but there was a lot of foreshadowing in here that I wasn't expecting, which was quite nice to see. Having Roswell have the exposition here actually makes it kind of more interesting, I think, than when Puck did it in the anime and light novel. Just because the jokes are a bit funnier. I don't know if anyone agrees with me here, but I enjoy this version of it a bit more personally.
No, I do agree.
Here's kind of the weird thing with that. The switch to having Puck do it, that's anime only.
Wait, really?
Yeah, this conversation happens not word for word, but at least beat for beat, the same in the light novel.
I wonder why they made that change.
I think they want to sell some Puck merchandise.
Yep.
I believe the actual reason is they put this entire loop into one episode, and they moved that conversation to his next loop. So that they could fit it all in.
I think so, yeah. I think it's interesting. I already think. What do you think? Do you think that Roswell already has? I mean, obviously he does. He already knows about Subaru, right? At this point, like.
I think he does.
Yeah, he most certainly does, yes.
He's prodding Subaru to like check on. I mean, so spoilers for Arc 4/Season 2 here, but he's like checking basically what points in his own tome Subaru is at. Because if we think about like the last loop that he actually does go through here, he uses yin magic to succeed. So the fact that Subaru doesn't know any is a hint that Roz needs to explain that to him. in order for him to get to that point.
One of the curious things about this is, do you think that Roswaal? I mean, something very interesting is that, of course, we know that he likes Subaru because, like, when he points out stuff like, you're like me, you're kind of like after a girl, and I don't dislike that. Like, he emphasizes the fact that he says like bad things about Subaru being like selfish or like reckless, and he's like, I don't dislike that, right? He's obviously trying to encourage that behavior, the behavior that got him killed in the last arc. But like, something very interesting about that to me is that it's like, does Roswaal think that at this point this could be the right universe? It could be the universe in which he succeeds, because like the way that he's talking about jovially all the time to Subaru, at this point, does he just believe that at any point this could be the successful route? Like, does he just think that every...
So I don't know how other people feel. Personally, my interpretation is he may have felt that way in the first arc because he wasn't involved at all, really. He might have felt like the how things were going was in the right place at first, whereas he's gotten more involved in this part of this loop in particular, I think because he feels he actually has to intervene.
Yeah, do you think he got more cynical?
I kind of think the opposite. I don't think he believed that the last attempt was real at all, and may have initially thought so this time, but once he realized that Subaru doesn't know shadow magic or yin magic yet, he like went into realizing that it's not.
Okay.
Because this time he starts, like, obviously post-loop, goes straight into it, like, hey, instantly hire me to work here, goes, like, step by step immediately.
Because at a certain point, if you're Roswaal and you have this high expectation of somebody, if they don't know much about this world, you just assume that at that point they're going to mess up. Because, like, if you're the second iteration of Roswaal and you're like, you don't know anything about magic at all, okay, well, I guess there's no way for you to succeed, like, that's probably what he's thinking, right?
I think that's exactly what he's thinking. Yeah.
I imagine that's one of the preconditions in his tone.
But he's also probably like, well, the next me needs this, so I'm just gonna dump a bunch of exposition on him.
Right, because the first hint, at least in the anime, that something's up with him is the change in the last attempt in Arc 2, and him smiling when Subaru starts performing exactly as he expects in the throne room in Arc 3. But the only reason he would be there is from the use of yin magic. So if he doesn't know any yet, that's just an instant clue to him that, one, it's not the right time yet, and two, I have to teach this to him.
Crazy. And it's interesting because I think this could be me reading into it. It probably is not. I mean, knowing all the subtle foreshadowings here, like there's times where he's talking about something and he's like saying something kind of like fun or like sort of helpful, but he like the narration like says his dead lifeless eyes, like, or like his unemotional creepy eye, like,
yeah, the yellow eye has no emotion
so like
at all.
Yeah, so like it could be that like like even though he's performing as if he's having fun or whatnot, like he inside's like I'm just like I don't care, I'm just doing
and
this.
He closes that eye as soon as he pulls the character back out. It says that he closes the one eye before laughing into the next section. But yeah, I think even Subaru notices that like something changed with Roswaal this time because he had never come to the bath this late.
Yeah.
So it must have just been I realized that this is not the right attempt. I'm going to calm down and like figure out what
he's trying to
happen.
confirm what he knows, what he needs to know,
Because we've also learned from not the previous chapter, chapter 13, that Ram is reporting to him all of the strange and weird things that Subaru is asking of her, which are like, you're lacking common sense, you don't know anything about this world. Also cluing him in that it's not he needs more tries. It's not the right time yet. All just to cap it off with Subaru thinking that Ram is asking him to come sleep with her.
As usual. Something, I bring this up every single time nowadays, but it's like, it's so funny how like overtly sexual Roswaal is compared to, the anime. Like, I didn't realize it was this like in your face. No joke intended. But yeah, it's very funny. Like that's the only thing that I think he's playing into, like, obviously he's like a guy who is confident in that, but like also like he's playing into, I think, Subaru's fantasies, right? He wants Subaru to be selfish. He wants him to try to take everything that he wants. I think that's a reason why he brings it up. He's like, yeah, yin magic is good for quieting, making sure that no girls know like where like that you're over, that type of thing. And I think it's interesting. Yeah, the sort of boyish talk that he gives them all the time.
Yeah, I think it's already very apparent that the way Roswell treats Subaru is perhaps different to how he treats other people, though.
We see it. I think, yeah, not to interrupt you, but I think we see that with him and Rom in the sense that he is usually a very dutiful and serious person until he feels like he's met somebody who's his equal, or somebody who, like, as he said in, Arc Forward, like somebody that he has hope in, right? He feels like can, do something with, and he can be more intimate and more serious. Like, we know the clown makeup is all just an act, but like that sort of, well-spoken, charismatic magician is sort of, it's really interesting to me as somebody who's voice accent, like how he's able to seriously perform that with such like, confidence and like, believability, I should say. And, internally just being like always calculating, always sort of, cold. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's an additional element to like his makeup and the way he like acts and stuff, which is I think is mentioned in Arc 4 is that he's punishing himself by appearing like another character that did a lot of trauma to him. In a sense, I think those walls he's built up and that kind of like act he's putting on, I think it comes down a lot with Subaru. He perhaps feels like with Subaru, even though he's been trying to manipulate Subaru into what he wants in terms of goals, when it comes to his actual relationship with Subaru, I think he actually is genuinely being himself a bit and like joking with him genuinely and enjoying himself spending time with him. It's just like really interesting to see because it adds like this double layer to how Roswell is acting throughout the story.
I think he's also doing that because he knows that this isn't going to last, that he's not the real version of himself here.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on the Roswell foreshadowing? Or
yeah, just one last thing. I think it's interesting how he mentions, I think you're right with that, Wolf, in the sense that he mentions, years ago, like he would, like, when was the last time, like he's acted like this, like years and years and years past. And it makes me think that you're right, like the jovial side that he's talking to Subaru now is his actual self, and or was his self before he got, like traumatized or, whatever happened with his body. And it's interesting because when you think about it, and this is just sort of, I'll just throw this out here, is just like Roswell as a character before everything happened is sort of the opposite of melancholy. He's very jovial, he's very loving, he's very appreciative to people, he's very loyal. Like
the character that Roswell performs is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's interesting that he puts that on. It's one side is that, the other side is melancholy. It's interesting. Like he's a dual-natured person. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Does anyone else have anything else to say? Do you think we can set up for the next chapter then? Is everyone ready for that?
Yep.
We should get our narrators squared away for that.
Who wants to narrate?
I don't know if Kiki wants to do the first half and I'll do the second half, or
I can do the first half.
Okay, yeah. Because there is a break like halfway through. There's the lines.
There's another break at the very end, but that's like only 4 paragraphs, so it's really not.
Yeah,
worth
there's one
switching
that's
on that
almost
one.
exactly in the middle.
Yeah, I found it.
Yeah, right
page
there.
Yeah, there we go.
Okie dokie.
Alrighty, is everyone ready for the next chapter?
Yes, I am.
Aye, aye.
Sure am.
Alrighty. Yeah,
Oh,
let's
hello.
do this. Let's do this. All right. Chapter 16. The Confusing Second Week.
I'll say it over and over if I must. Natsuki Subaru is devoted to Emilia.
Ever since coming to another world, Subaru had had the opportunity to run into multiple beautiful women he never would have encountered in his original world. But she stood out even from that crowd. It wasn't just that she was beautiful, though that was certainly part of it. It was more simple than that. It was her vulnerability that made him head over heels for her. As long as she stayed that way, he would only grow more and more fond of her. Therefore, it was impossible for Subaru's heart to be attracted to anyone other than Emilia, no matter how beautiful she was. It was totally impossible.
So, the fact I'm making my bed perfectly is only because I want to get a good night's sleep. It doesn't mean anything else.
He was pressing the edges of the bed with his fingers, making excuses to nobody in particular. Upon returning to his room after his bath, Subaru had spent the entirety of time cleaning up and making his bed. He had worked so hard that despite having just finished his bath, his forehead was already sweaty again, and he had left his laundry unattended. It took some time, but he considered what he had accomplished a job well done.
There's no deep reason for this. No deep meaning at all. Calm your mind. Quiet your heart. 1 Emilia Tan. 2 Emilia Tan. It's heaven that...
You're being noisy, Barasu. It's late, so be quiet.
Fall away!
He jumped high and back against the wall. At the entrance to his room, he saw Ram standing there, having opened the door silently. She then stepped in and knocked.
After I tell you to be quiet, you're completely useless.
What's with you and your rules? I'm constantly on edge listening to you. It's like my entire common sense is broken. Just tell me what to do and how.
Ram's only response to Subaru's angry remarks was to sniff and sigh, seemingly at a loss for words to express her contempt for Subaru. She crossed the room, heading for his bed, and then turned to stop at the small wooden desk in front of it. Each room was equipped with a space for reading and writing, as well as everything else each room came with. But it was useless for Subaru for the time being. He could not read or write, except for Japanese, of course.
Maybe I should do that at least. Even though I couldn't take it with me to the next loop. Maybe it'd help me remember everything if I write it down.
Enough mumbling about whatever. Barasu, come here.
Ram's words were not dissimilar to those one would use to discipline a dog. Blue veins appeared on Subaru's forehead in response. Allowing her to take control of the situation would be a loss for Subaru. He was only able to say he was in his element when he was the one in control.
Regardless, no matter what crazy thing she's about to say, I'll have to still my heart and remain strong. I cannot waver.
Feeling like he was walking into battle, Subaru approached Ram.
Well, what nonsense do you have for me this time?
Talking about? Just sit down already. I'm going to teach you to read and write.
You are?
The steel melted down. Subaru checked on his supposedly hardened heart, only to find it had suddenly broken down into a squishy mess. While he was unable to hide his agitation, he looked down at his desk to find a notebook, paper, quill, and a brown-colored book. It appeared she wasn't teasing him or pulling a prank, but genuinely was there to teach him reading and writing.
But why did you decide to do that all of a sudden?
Barasu, you're illiterate. I can tell just by watching you today, so I'm going to teach you how. If you can't read or write, you can't make or follow shopping notes, so you can't run errands.
Ram's answer to Subaru's question was a perfectly reasonable one, yet Subaru was left flapping his mouth like a fish. Ignoring his reaction, Ram pointed out the book with the red-brown cover.
collection of fairy tales made for children. From now on, Rem or I will keep you company each night to help you study.
It was a welcome offer for Subaru, but honestly left him very puzzled. The situation was much like the one from the bathroom, as in being one that couldn't have existed in the previous loop.
It's not a bad deal. But what brought on this sudden study group?
Obviously, this is also that Rom can work less.
You're certainly not one to beat around the bush.
Naturally, the more Barasu can do, the less Rom has to do. The more Rom's workload drops, the more Wem's workload will inevitably decrease as well. It's a win for everyone.
Except for me, who ends up super busy with work!
She tilted her head, like she didn't understand what Subaru was complaining about. He didn't have the energy to argue with her about it though, so while he was taken aback by her reaction, he was still pleased by her offer to teach.
Okay, I'm good with this. Let's get to studying, shall we?
In your case, Barasu, your understanding of grammar is fine, so this won't be too difficult. Your natural inability shouldn't be a problem at all.
Praising me for an insult doesn't make it a compliment.
Regardless, he sat down at his desk, picked up the quill, and was ready to start. He'd never had the chance to touch one before, but found the quill pen to be light and easy to write well when sliding it over the paper. His first stroke in another world had to be memorable. Subaru went to the cover of the notebook and slid the tip over the cover with large letters.
Natsuki Subaru was here. There!
We don't have time to play around with doodles. I have an early start tomorrow, so time is limited.
No, that's my native language, you... Of course you didn't get that.
Based on how their conversation had gone so far, he had been hoping she would recognize some part of it if he wrote the words, but things were never so convenient.
Just like how the characters in this world look like hieroglyphs to me. Japanese probably looks like some random lines and scratches to them.
Subaru wouldn't be able to use his favorite written phrases to express rage.
Then again, no matter what obscene fantasies I write down, nobody could tell. That could come in handy. Add keys for managing my libido.
Go over iglyphs. Roglyphs and hoglyphs can wait until you've perfected the iglyphs.
There's 3 different types. Just hearing that makes me want to give up.
Subaru was not a fan of wanting to give up when he was just starting to learn a new language.
Now I know what it's like for foreigners who are trying to learn Japanese. They hear they need to learn 3 types of characters, hiragana, katakana, and kanji, and still have no idea how much they'll need to learn.
We'll move to fairy tales after you've learned iglyphs. We can study until one dark sun and then continue tomorrow. Rom is sleepy too.
I think your true feelings were said at the end there. I like that about you, senpai.
Rom also likes that about Rom.
As usual, she had no hesitation in her response, so it was hard for Subaru to tell if she was being honest or joking. Based on how his lessons were going, he suspected the former was true though. When learning a new language, the first thing to do is figure out the alphabet used. As was the case for hiragana, which is called the primary Japanese alphabet, a language can be broken down into the basic characters used, and everything else is just a combination of those characters. Therefore, learning a language starts with writing out the alphabet.
This is more painful than I thought it would be. Reminds me of when I was copying notes down.
He started writing out the basic characters Ram showed him at a pace of about 400 characters per page. The characters started to blur together after doing so for some time, but he felt it was necessary to continue regardless.
I can feel my eyelids getting heavy from how exhausted and sleepy I am. But Ram's here, so I've got no choice but to keep going. It's a rare thing that she's been so friendly to me, especially since this is the first day.
Granted, it was his second first day, but he knew he couldn't afford to waste the moment.
I know you said you were doing this for your own benefit, but I'm still grateful for this.
He fought back the feelings of embarrassment and had managed to convey his honest feelings, It missed the sounds of the quill running over the page. Writing the same characters over and over, Subaru thought back over the previous 4 days.
In hindsight, well, I spent my free time chasing Amelia's ass. The person I spent the most time with was probably Ram.
It had likely taken quite a lot of time to train Subaru to do each kind of task around the mansion. Cooking, cleaning, laundry.
Cleaning, laundry. He was an amateur at all of them. In Ram's case, she not only had to do the job of teaching him all of it, but also likely had to keep up with her own regular workload. Naturally, the burden of making up for what Ram couldn't finish would have fallen to Rem. Therefore, Subaru hadn't had much time to spend with Rem over the 4 days. Ram and the others had told Subaru that the ever-talented Rem had finished it all, so Subaru also felt a debt to her for the indirect burden he had placed on her.
If I was honest, I didn't think you liked me very much.
Even though she was already busy, she had acquired a useless junior. Her own time had then been cut down even more by helping him study. For somebody like Subaru, who was quite inexperienced when it came to interpersonal relationships, just imagining that was painful. Being thought of that way was something he was familiar with, though. Thus, Subaru was happy with the current situation, where he wasn't being rejected.
I know I'm probably going to cause you a lot more trouble, so please forgive me if I ask for your help.
With a squeak of the chair, Subaru turned his head towards Ram, who had been listening silently. He had spilled his true feelings to her, straight from his heart.
She was sleeping adorably in his freshly made bed. She had removed her shoes, her apron, and her headdress, placing them on the side of her bed, and pulled the comforter over her shoulders in the classic bedroom style. The quill snapped with a crack.
Gave in to a sudden urge, opened his mouth, and yawned. He straightened his back and rubbed his eyes roughly to clear the boots of sleep from the corner of his eyes that still remained. The evening sky was tinted orange from the parting gift of the setting sun. Subaru looked off at the clouds and stretched his joints to check the condition of his body. He was feeling the effects of a hard day's work, but it wasn't as bad as the first night.
Well, it's not like my body got stronger after getting sent back, so I guess I've just learned how to move my body without getting as tired.
Becoming more efficient not from his body getting tougher, but just from himself getting used to the work. He expected that to lead to him getting less and less tired over time.
If there's a chance I'll loop again in the future, I can't count on getting stronger from repeating things. All I'll be able to do is prepare for events and learn housekeeping skills.
For him to think about that ahead of time.
Sorry to keep you waiting, Subaru. Is everything all right?
Oh, yeah! Everything's alright. Have you finished your shopping, Remren?
Yes, there were no delays. You seem to have had some trouble, Subaru.
It was Rem, the blue-haired girl, who was holding a bag filled with her belongings in front of her. She was tilting her head, inquiring of his efforts. She was dressed in her typical maid clothes, but her hair was waving in the wind, and she had a softer expression than normal while looking at Subaru. Specifically, at Subaru's butler uniform, which had been torn and soiled with mud, dust, and snot.
You seem to have been quite popular.
Couldn't tell you why, but kids have always flocked to me. I guess it's that uncontrollable maternal instinct inside me. that attracts the hearts of children.
Children are like animals and naturally form hierarchies with people. They instinctively recognize whether someone is to be underestimated or not.
Praising me for that doesn't make it a compliment.
Showed his dissatisfaction by putting his hand on his chin, but Rem didn't acknowledge it. He had gotten another harsh compliment. Internally, he nodded, acknowledging that they were indeed sisters after all.
The direct Ram and the indirect Rem. You need real mental fortitude to deal with these two. Not to mention the physical fortitude needed to even do the job with them.
Subaru turned his head around and looked back behind him. In the distance, coming from the square, the delightful sound of children could still be heard echoing. Not that long ago, Subaru had joined into their circle, struggling against runny noses and slobbery smiles. It was his solitary battle, with no backup nor mercy from his opponents. At that moment, Subaru and Rem were at the village nearest the mansion. The local lord, Roswell, was a nobleman, and thus held several fiefdoms within his land. The village in the immediate vicinity of the manor was no exception, so the villagers naturally knew the staff's faces. The two maids in particular were often approached by people when they visited, like when they came shopping. For his part, Subaru hadn't taken long to become known by the public. Despite it technically being his first visit there, he had been welcomed in a very friendly way. That made him glad, even if he was left all messy.
How the hell can these kids be so touchy-feely? Can't they detect my hard-boy adult aura? That would burn any who touch?
Adult was a term combining the English words hard-boiled and adult. Saying the term elicited an image of a low voice, whispering while smoking a cigarette. Not long after, Rem walked past him and glanced sideways at him.
Subaru is quite busy pretending to be a mother and an adult.
If I was busy, then this wouldn't have happened. Shit. Maybe I should have just gone shopping with you, Remrin.
Joined her to go shopping because if he had, he would have been no help, as he could not distinguish between the ingredients nor even knew their names. Therefore, he had wandered off alone, hoping to get some attention. Unexpectedly, it had been the kids who had found him and abducted him.
It's not like I don't like them. I just don't get them.
What was that?
Oh, nothing. Just talking to myself. You know, I like talking to you, Remrin. I feel like I don't have to be cautious when I speak. Not like with Rami. I can't even predict what new way she'll be disappointed in me.
Isn't my sister amazing?
Seemed to be on the same page. Rem was showing a hint of pride as she was bragging about her sister. Subaru couldn't detect any dishonesty in her words, so he assumed she was being genuine.
To be frank, isn't Rami's personality kind of problematic? She seems to cause friction quite often.
Not as much as you do, Subaru, both as a person and as a servant.
That's what I thought.
Learn from others' mistakes. It was only natural for Subaru's criticism of Ram's personality and ability to be mocked, since his contributions were less than half of hers. Not to mention the other person in the conversation was simply an improved version of Ram. The level of her damage her sarcasm dealt was also several times more than Ram's, which made up for her being more indirect. As Rem walked ahead, Subaru scratched his head in worry.
Last time I went shopping with Ram.
Speaking of which, how are your studies progressing, Subaru?
I'd like to say that it was progressing steadily, but it's not that easy. After all, it's better to take your time and grow slowly. Just like with love.
I hope it doesn't wither in the meantime.
The love has already withered from your comments, Remrin!
Comeback caused Rem to actually smile, which made Subaru laugh as well.
It's already been 4 days since Ram offered to give me private lessons in the evening. She had told me that her and Rem would take turns teaching me to write, but Rem hasn't played the role of mentor even once this whole time. I guess she hasn't had the chance to take a break from her work, and it seems like that's bothering her somewhat.
Continued to laugh, seeing as she hadn't responded in her usual manner.
But no worries here. I'm not being neglected or anything, and I'm not dissatisfied by having Rami as a teacher. I mean, it's definitely demotivating when she falls asleep on my bed in the middle of the lesson, but...
Sister is intentionally behaving like that in order to motivate you, Subaru.
Your positive thinking exceeds even my own. Your worship of your sister is extraordinary. It's seriously oniific.
Oniific?
Rem tilted her head at Subaru's personally crafted word.
It's the Oni version of deific. Oniific. Sounds cool, right?
Oni, do you have a fondness for them?
I think I like them more than gods. Gods basically just ignore you. But I heard that an only laugh with you when you talk about the future.
Supposedly get extra excited when you talk about next year. Subaru imagined laughing alongside the red and blue Oni, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. When he came out of his daydream, he noticed that Rem had a definitive smile on her face.
Oh!
He had seen her grin or smirk several times before, but that was the first time he saw a face that could properly be described as smiling. He wasn't sure what had grabbed her heartstrings, but then he snapped his fingers.
Your smile rivals the light of a 1,000,000-volt nightscape.
I'm telling Lady Amelia.
I wasn't trying to hit on you!
He straightened his posture and thrusted out his hands, striking a pose that embodied asking for forgiveness. Rem then raised her eyebrows at the posing Subaru.
What's wrong with your hands?
Oh! I was playing with the kids when I got super bite from that damned dog.
His left hand had some clear visible teeth marks and subtle bloodstains. Thankfully, the bleeding had stopped by then. He recalled the same thing had happened the last loop, another strange occurrence he had managed to repeat. By the way, the back of his jacket was also coated in snot from runny noses, but he'd only noticed them after returning to the mansion.
Shall I heal the wound?
Huh? Wait, do you have the affinity for healing magic too, Remrin?
Only enough to heal simple wounds, but I could heal that up. Would you prefer Lady Amelia do it?
That's tempting, I can't deny it, but I think I'll pass.
Subaru looked down at the canine tooth marks on his left hand. He decided that the scar would serve just fine as a marker. That is, because the moment the loop began, the disappearance of his scar was what made Subaru most aware it had happened.
The presence or absence of the wound is a valid marker then. If I hadn't been bitten by the dog again, I would have had to injure myself with a blade or my quill. I grew out of my wanting a sword scar on my face phase back in middle school. In hindsight, I was covered in scars, so that makes sense.
He missed the days when he longed for having scars on his face and scratched himself out of impatience. Then, when one scar wasn't enough, he kept making more and more of them. Unfortunately, they got infected. It was so catastrophic, he ended up as the only one that looked like a mummy in his middle school yearbook.
Oh no! Am I cute?
They say that scars are like badges of honor to men. Come to think of it, Master Roswell is also quite proud of his scar that never went away. It's around his chest.
I don't like where you're going with this, so can we move on, please?
Had taken a weird turn towards the suspicious relationship between the maids and their lord, so Subaru hurriedly changed the subject. Rem tilted her head in confusion, seemingly not understanding what he meant. Subaru just pushed her back, hurrying them back home.
It's fine, it's fine.
Not only was he not confident that he could keep up with such a graphic topic, Subaru was also getting rather nervous.
After all, today is the 4th day of the Second World. What's most important is making sure we arrive safely home tomorrow morning. But before that...
He had to succeed in the all-important battle of whether he could make a promise with Amelia or not.
By the way, was your and Rami's sex ed sufficient, Remrin? I'm worried that your master might try and trick you two into doing something weird.
Paying more attention over the past few days of the loop, such questions began to arise.
Once I get my situation sorted out, I'm going to start looking into it.
Secretly, Subaru had strengthened his resolve. Natsuki Subaru's second week at Roswell's mansion had reached its greatest crisis. Things hadn't gone smoothly from the start, since he'd been unable to follow the steps he took the previous loop. But he was up against the biggest concern yet.
I can't go meet with Eminent because I need to study.
Praying their love for each other and exchanging pinky promises, all under the moonlight. Those were Subaru's hopes for the second run at the night. So the situation he was facing was the worst thing that could have happened and had stopped the progress of the event. It was only the fourth night of studying. Before dinner, he directly asked a favor to the twins.
Can't we take a back and rest just for a bit, like, say, tonight?
Sister, the coward named Subaru is already whining.
Rem, a loser named Barasu is whining like a dog.
Thus, he was dismissed with a blank stare from them. He wanted to run to Amelia's side, even if it meant slacking off and making things worse for himself.
But if Eminent learned I slacked off from Rem, she is definitely the kind of girl to cancel our promise.
Even if a promise was made, it would be meaningless if it got called off later.
The two have their promised encounter, and their passion burns like flames in the flower garden, and they walk off into the town together.
Only when they reached that point could he say it was a Subaru-approved happy ending.
Then again, if I study hard as normal, Amelia would have turned in before we even meet up at all.
Therefore, he was left with but one option: to study as fast as possible and descend into the garden before the moon vanished behind the clouds.
Or I could use my ultimate bed-making skills, allowing Ram to fall asleep, run down, make the promise, then come back up like she was still asleep and finish the assignment. A classic pincer maneuver!
He was between a rock and a hard place, caught between a challenge and a promise. It was enough to make a man's heart weep. He prepared his best option and finished adjusting his bed. The bedding was in perfect condition for it, having been warmed by absorbing the sun all day. The warmth felt just by touching it was enough to lull someone into the world of sleep. There in his room, Subaru concentrated all reserves of energy he had into becoming the perfect hotelier, and completed the perfect bed-making process.
I won't be able to make a better bed than that.
He put everything he had into making that bed. It was his masterpiece. Despite being the one who made it, he was rather impressed with the workmanship. Typically, he was bothered by the sight of Rom lying there without permission. But for once, he couldn't help but want to see it as soon as possible.
It's like waiting to see a cockroach get caught in a brand new roach trap. Oh, this is the worst.
No matter what explanation could be given, the truth was the truth, and wasn't worth correcting. Regardless, the fact that he was waiting for the other person so dutifully in spite of his typical attitude perhaps could be said to be a result of his Japanese upbringing. So he was just standing by his desk, tapping his fingers on his knee, waiting for the other person to arrive.
Oh, why is she so late today? If this starts late, it's going to end late too. It's not like there's a school bell that ends it.
In a school, if a teacher is late, then it just means the class had to wait. But in the situation he found himself in, time was just being wasted, and the time he was spending in detention was extending. It wouldn't be a waste of time for him to review his work, but in his current state of mind, he was finding it quite hard to calm down and start writing. Subaru was unaware of how ridiculous it was to be planning on finishing his work as fast as possible when he was in such a state of mind. Time kept ticking by, and he was getting anxious when he finally heard a knock on his bedroom door. He shot up and violently opened the door.
You're so late! The time may mean nothing to you, but every second was cutting into my soul!
I didn't realize you were waiting so long. I'm sorry. I've not spent much time on this floor at all.
All bloodlust instantly drained from his body when he heard that from Amelia, who was standing on the other side of his doorway.
Amazing job, everyone!
That's chapter 16.
Oof.
Woo,
Ooh.
We made it through.
we did!
Ugh.
Oh,
Sorry about that, Kiki.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It sounded fine on my end, so I don't know what was going on.
You got hit with a Discord lag spike, so it muted
Yeah.
you for like a few seconds. Taildy started taking over, and then it was
Oh.
just about to do the thing where it takes everything that you did say and cram it into 5 seconds. So I server muted just until that was over.
Oh, that's what happened.
And then I think again, like Rom makes like hum and sleepy noises a lot, and the mic's just not picking that up.
Yeah,
So
I
there was
didn't
the
pick
delay
that up at
there.
all. So like, I read the line. I was waiting for it. I was like, is it gonna happen? Like, I don't know what's going on.
We love Discord.
Our server
Yeah,
boost.
those little reaction sounds, Discord does not like them.
No.
When we were fully boosted on Discord, it picked up everything, but since we've lost a lot of boosts, it's gone down drastically.
That's just rude of Discord then.
Yeah.
You know what y'all in the chat could do? You could join the Studio Reverie Discord server and give us
Do you want
a
to help
little boost.
improve the quality of streams? Now's your chance!
Yeah.
You want to be a part of the action?
Sorry, I wasn't able to narrate.
Oh, Kiki,
No,
you
you
did a great job.
Great.
You were great.
It was Discord that was being dumb. You did fantastic.
amazing!
And it was the perfect time to glitch out too, because it's at the very end of your lines.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And even
It was through the Skype. We don't need Discord.
I wish. Discord said
Go back to TeamSpeak. Everything else was a mistake.
Ah, true.
Speak is awful.
I know.
I'm running away to get food real quick because I was falling asleep during that chapter, so I'm gonna let Wolf take over my end of things.
Oh, no, go take care of yourself.
Thank you, ILBRB.
Go, Munch. Hello.
Yes. Hello, everyone. What everyone think of the content?
I do very much agree what at Y said in the chat, where it's just the walk back with Rem and Subaru is very just like it feels like the start of like actual kind of friendship between them, at least in this loop, because like we know that Rem and Subaru get a lot closer later on, but it's like just the little back and forth of just like, you have a great smile. It's like, I'm telling Amelia. It's just a very like silly back and forth, and it's very cute.
It is very cute.
It also feels like he's the most comfortable when talking to her, even though he admits earlier that he doesn't know her as well. Like with Rom, he even admits to Rem that he feels like he has to walk on eggshells. And he puts on a front with Amelia and Roswell, but with Rem, he's just completely honest, even now.
Yeah, it is really wholesome. I like that that's a aspect that's really shown through about their relationship. I like the way you've implemented the oneific statement that Subaru like comes up with as many Subaruisms.
Yeah, that one,
I think it fits ReZero a bit better than a lot of the official translations.
Yeah, there's no perfect answer for that. And like some of his Subaruisms, even the other one he introduced this chapter, just literally can't be translated. Like the hard boy adult thing. So that only works if you are saying adult with a Japanese accent. Like writing it in katakana, in which it's adodiku. Because it's meant to then be adult and dick, as in like a detective.
The detective dick, yeah.
So it's supposed to be like hard-boiled detective, you know, like that kind of character. Okay.
Yes, it's meant to be both. I'm like a grown-up adult, even a hard-boiled detective. But the pun only works when he says hard boy a dick or hard boy a diku, because that's taking the back half of adoriku and hard boy a do and putting them together, and it's
only
impossible to do in
works
English.
Yeah, with a Japanese like slant to it. I see. I was wondering why I was struggling so much to get that to come across.
So like the thing with the oniific is that's in Japanese as the original word is basically deific or godly or divine. Or divinely inspired is like a common translation for that as well, but it's kami gakura. But you can just switch kami for oni a lot easier in that, and it just becomes onigakura.
Oh, okay, I see. I will say I do find it I do find it very silly how like Subaru's reaction to Ram coming to stop over to his room was so stupid.
Oh yeah.
It very much made him. It made me very much think he still thinks he's in like an anime or like a weird production. It's just like such a strange line of thinking, like where he's going with it.
Honestly, I'd give him a pass for this one because he like had just come out of the bath, and as he's like mentioned, like I'm going straight to bed. She turns around and says, "I'm going to join you in your room later," like in the middle of the night. That's like that's not
While
a
he was
wild line
still
of thinking.
kind of naked.
Yeah, he was in a bathrobe.
Yeah.
I mean, but in fairness, we have to forget he says, "I'm going to fucking bed." Just for we'd have to reinstate that.
Because some bitch gave me an early morning start.
Give me some early morning start. Yeah.
That was wild to translate as well. He's meant to be like complaining about your boss to your coworker, while also his coworker being his boss.
Yeah. That was honestly one of my favorite lines to deliver in a while. I won't lie.
And the last little translator things I'll say for 16, this has happened like once or twice before, and I've just been able to ignore it. But like 4 different times, there's just a line in there that's not narration, it's not Subaru, it's not his internal monologue. It feels like it's just Tappei saying something and left it in the chapter.
The learn from others' mistakes line?
That one's one of the weird ones. But later on, like after Rem brings up Roswell's scar, the translation for the next line would be, "I'm not sure I'm confident with continuing on with such a graphic topic. And Subaru was getting nervous anyway, so let's move on."
Oh, so it's kind of like a...
It's like a completely valid way to read that.
So very much like a narrator aside kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Exactly. And then he does it again a little bit later on with the no matter what explanation can be given, the truth was the truth and wasn't worth correcting, is just like commenting on what Subaru is saying. And then the narration picks up as normal right after that. And he's been doing that a lot.
Interesting. I never knew this was an element to Tappei's writing at all.
Well, it's certainly not translated into the light novel, and obviously it's not in the anime, but you know, still it's weird that that's there.
I mean, it adds a lot of his personality into it, which I don't mind too much. It very much takes you away from the scene a little bit, though.
Yeah, just a tad.
Like you're fully immersed in this conversation, and you just get that random aside.
Though it does track. Tappei has said that he doesn't like talking about sex to that degree.
Yeah, you've mentioned to me before previously that Tappei is very uncomfortable with subjects like that, just in general. Interesting how comfortable he is with gore, though.
Oh yeah, completely comfortable. He worked in a butcher shop, right?
Yes,
for a long time?
He worked in a butcher shop for quite a while, which is why apparently he was not too uncomfortable with going in graphic detail about things.
But you won't ever see that described about Emilia. He can't do it.
I imagine not. He made the whole series because of Emilia, right? Like the whole concept of her character.
Yeah, but I mean, you can catch it, but she like never is shown like how she dies on screen, like ever. It's never like graphically
That's
described or
true.
anything.
Yeah.
The closest you get is Subaru looking back at her and she's already dead.
You guys have never noticed that? It's one of the most biggest pet peeves ever I have with Tappei. I'm like, you'll give every other character some brutal death, but never Amelia.
Oh,
But
she
writers
gets the
that-
deaths. Just doesn't get described.
Writers that love their characters will do that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just like, I can't. This is my child. I can't do
It's
this.
favoritism, yeah.
I heard like in an interview with Tappei that he said he was every time he would think about killing Subaru, he would be chopping meat. Like, how can I kill Subaru today? Like, that is just terrible.
I mean,
chop is what he said.
in fairness to him, I imagine that's kind of the attitude he has to kind of take when writing Subaru, because if he didn't, it'd be probably very difficult for him to write his character.
Story would suffer, yeah.
I imagine he has to take that attitude, because otherwise he's gonna not be able to write Subaru in the way he needs for these scenes. Because one thing that Tappei has always been very apparent about is that Subaru's death should never be comedic, and they have to be serious and god-awful and terrible. And he doesn't try to stray away from that. I think he takes the seriousness of Subaru's death very importantly in any scene, whenever it does happen.
Yeah, he's had some pretty brutal deaths. Not
We
gonna
might
lie.
have to come back to that conversation in a couple years, or once we get further for the podcast there, Wolf.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think that that's as true as it used to be.
Oh, okay. That'll be interesting to discuss.
Are you, wait, who said that? Was that Roswell?
That was Palizard, Rom.
Oh, Rom. You okay? Yeah, I was wondering now. I was like, are you ahead in the web novels or something? Or
Yeah, I'm
Okay. I am
I'm,
too. So
like
well,
only 2 or 3 months behind, I think.
I'm like 2 chapters behind, but I'm taking a break from them. I won't say much. Just not a fan right now. I'll just say that. So, not a fan of the direction.
Yeah, Strips Chicken, that one specific death in the light novel alone is already extremely graphic, so waiting to see how it was worse probably in the web novel is going to be insane.
Yes, I forgot about this, actually. Yeah, I remember reading this scene when I was reading the web novel version of Arc 4.
Sorry, I don't have it. I don't have YouTube. What was it?
If you ever get to Arc 4 web novel, that's one specific death is insane.
Oh yeah, I read that in the web novel. I just wanted to see what it was like in the web novel. I'm like, good. This.
Yeah, it's it can get very graphic.
He went into detail on that one. I'll just say that.
Yeah, the
Is there anything else anyone can think of for this chapter?
Rom's just awesome. I think Rom's like one of my favorite characters in the series. That's all I can say. So
I do love some Rom appreciation. She's one of my favorite characters. Probably
the
top
longer I have been a fan, the more I have become a fan of Rom specifically.
yeah, that's true for me too. Like he was just, I think in a later arc, she really shines out, in my opinion. So, I think she's just funny. Her and Subaru's dynamic is probably my favorite in the series. So
yeah,
they're just really funny
their
together.
dynamic
So.
is great. I really enjoy their dialogue together. Well then, I think if we've got nothing else to mention about the chapter, this might be where we end. Thank you everyone for stopping by and watching today. And we will join you again for the next Arc 2 live reading in 2 weeks from now.
That's the goal.
Yep.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much,
watching.
everyone, and have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. Bye-bye!
Bye, everyone.
See you all
Ciao.
next time. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.